When steam ruled, thunder raced down the rails in a trail of white mist. Learn how steam locomotives worked, what they could do, and why America wouldn't be without them. The steam locomotive on Trains Unlimited, next. A long time ago, before diesels pulled America's trains, a different kind of locomotive ruled the rails. They hissed, they rumbled, and they roared. They belched smoke and spewed clouds of white mist. And if you stood next to one and felt the warmth of its boiler and heard its mysterious sounds, you would swear it was alive. Steam power allowed the development of mechanized railroading back in the 19th century, and it reigned supreme until the more labor-efficient and economical internal combustion engine took its place in the 1950s.
Steam engine developed this country from nothing to what it is. They opened up the whole country to anybody that needed it, that wanted to go anywhere, or carry anything, or move anything. When you talk about diesels versus steam, the diesel can be standing still and still look like it's going fast, where the steam engine is making the smoke and steam, and the connecting rods are flying, the wheels are turning. The steam engine is made for pictures.
The American steam age peaked in the mid-1920s and came to a close in 1960. By that year, 27,000 diesels had replaced the 40,000 steam locomotives operating on mainline rails at the end of World War II. Most of those steam engines went to the scrapyard. Some were preserved in museums and park displays, but some were given new lives on short line and tourist railroads, like Steamtown National Historic Site in Scranton, Pennsylvania.
Here, the machines breathe, move, whistle sounds. You can tell an engineer by the quill or the signature of his whistle. You see railroad men as they work about them. It is railroading as it existed 30 to 40 years ago.
There's a lot less romance in a diesel locomotive. People don't write songs about them, don't write poems about them, whereas steam locomotives have this attraction to everyone. Wherever we go with a steam engine, crowds come out to see it.
Before steam power was harnessed by the railroads for commerce and profit, and romanticized by poets, it was simply energy being transferred as heated water molecules expanded. The concept of steam power was demonstrated by a Greek named Hero of Alexandria in the year 130 BC. His engine consisted of a hollow metal ball mounted on tubes rising from a boiler. Steam from the boiler passed through the ball and escaped through opposing tubes, causing the ball to spin. In 1687, Sir Isaac Newton's laws of motion explained how Hero's engine worked. For every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. By 1712, Another Englishman named Thomas Newcomen had put science into action. He built a piston-driven steam engine to pump water out of coal mines. In 1769, Scottish engineer James Watt perfected Newcomen's idea and patented the first efficient steam engine. The era of steam power was born. Horse-powered tramways had long been used in England to pull mining carts. In 1804, inventor Richard Trevithick harnessed steam power and built the very first locomotive to run on rails.
His track consisted of kind of plates of iron laid on the ground and bolted together. Didn't stand up very well to the heavy locomotive. Later, Trevithick demonstrated a couple of variations of his locomotive, in fact, in a little park in London, and gave rides. But about the only place that locomotives actually took on was in the coal mines. So for about 20 years, that was the only place you saw them.
Heavy boilers and inadequate track hampered the success of the earliest locomotives. But by 1825, commercial railroading was off and running in England. It would take off in the United States by 1829.
Sturbridge Line has the honor of being the first locomotive ever to run in the Western Hemisphere. And it was imported from England, ran for a couple of days, actually, only up in northeastern Pennsylvania. And then the project that the locomotive was supposed to serve was reconsidered, and the locomotive was abandoned, basically. It had already been rendered obsolete by the Rocket. The Rocket was a locomotive built by Robert Stephenson and basically simplified the machinery enormously. It had a form that basically set the pattern for the rest of the steam era.
The basic operation of piston-driven steam locomotives has remained the same since the 1800s. Steam locomotives burn fuel in their firebox to create heat. A sheath of water surrounds the firebox where boiling water makes steam. Exhaust gases exit the firebox through tubes into a smoke box and then up the smokestack. The boiler tubes are also sheathed in water to help create more steam. The steam is channeled through valves to the steam cylinders. Expanding steam pushes pistons in these cylinders like burning gasoline does in internal combustion engines. The pistons push long bars called main rods, which turn the driving wheels. As the wheels rotate, timing rods reverse the flow of steam in the cylinders, causing the pistons to retract, completing the cycle. The exhaust steam exits through the smoke box, mixes with the fire exhaust, and both shoot up the stack. The draft they create pulls more air into the firebox, making the fire burn hotter, generating even more steam and more power. The cycle repeats, faster and faster, as the locomotive accelerates. Just like a car or truck, a steam locomotive works most efficiently when it's up to speed. They're huge and they're lumbering, but the basic mechanical workings of a steam locomotive are as precise as a fine pocket watch. And unlike cars, boats, planes, and rockets, steam locomotives are the only transportation vehicle where most of the moving parts are on the outside.
You just don't go to any store and buy the parts for this locomotive. You have to take care of what you got. Every single part that's on these locomotives have to be machined and made. They cannot be bought. It makes them a little bit expensive, but we realize this and we try to take the best care of it we know how. Here we have a good running locomotive and we'd like to keep it that way.
In today's world, the machines of our convenience are started up with the turn of a key, the twist of a knob, or the flick of a switch. Operating a steam locomotive has never been easy.
really takes a high degree of physical ability and mental agility, both, to be able to handle these locomotives. It requires a great deal of experience and study, a lot of hard work, and frankly, one has to be in fairly decent physical condition to be able to do this job also.
The small pile of embers left burning in the firebox overnight is spread out to help ignite fresh coal. Rods and wheels and fittings are tapped and turned and inspected to ensure safe operation. Joints are greased and bearings lubricated. Only then can the engine begin to move. Spent coals are dumped from the ash pan. Fresh coal and water are added to the tender. And when the engine's up to steam and the crew has its operating orders,
car to go, 26.
The locomotive is coupled to its train.
3.2.
I had to volunteer and work hard to get this position at Steamtown. I'm interested in old steam engines, and my dad also worked on the Western Maryland. Makes me feel good and makes me feel like I'm a part of history along with it.
America's earliest locomotives were British-made, like the John Bull. As American technology and design improved, so did the locomotives built here. A hugely successful domestic engine began appearing in 1836. It was called, appropriately, the American-type locomotive. Locomotive types are designated by their wheel arrangement. This had a 440 wheel arrangement. 4 guiding pilot wheels helped keep the engine on rickety American track. 4 larger driving wheels provided the power. Later locomotives had more driving wheels and eventually added trailing wheels to help support the growing weight of bigger engines.
During that critical period in the development of railroading, that was the engine that did all the work. Metallurgy and engineering was such that that was as big a boiler as they could build. And toward the end of the 19th century, as the engineers were able to build a bigger boiler, they put more wheels underneath it, and that's when we broke away from the 440 and you began to see much larger steam locomotives. But the 440 was the great classic steam engine of the 1800s.
The 440 American-type locomotive continued to be built until 1928. The earliest models started at 50 horsepower, but evolved to over 500 horsepower. The lightest weighed 32 tons, and the heaviest over 87 tons. In all, over 26,000 were made. Three basic types of fuel have powered steam locomotives through the years. Coal was used in regions where it was plentiful. Many railroads used various grades of soft bituminous coal. A few in Pennsylvania used hard anthracite coal, which produced virtually no smoke, but which required a larger firebox because it burned more slowly. Most early railroads, including many western roads, burned wood. Trees were abundant, making fuel equally plentiful. If you ran out of fuel, you could ask a nearby farmer for firewood. Wood burners had large diamond-shaped smokestacks. The metal plates and screens inside of them helped retard hot flying embers. Diesel locomotives burn oil, as did many of the later steam engines. Oil was easier to store and load, and was more readily available, especially in Texas and other western states. Oil burns without creating abrasive cinders and leaves no ash behind. Often, coal-burning locomotives were converted to oil by railroads anxious to save time and money.
In the development of locomotives, the idea was always to build a locomotive that could more effectively and more powerfully haul more stuff a greater distance.